Hi guys. Yeah, just gonna do a brief betting diary entry here. It's not gonna be a long one about the portfolio as such generally, but just about Indian Wells, like how that's gone, how I'm feeling about just everything related to my own tipping. So yeah, like obviously the last couple of days have been tough and. It's funny as a tipster, like I feel like it's like this weird experience where you know how you feel mentally, and but you also have this sort of sense of how you would feel as a subscriber if you were to be following. You have almost like this detachment where I'm often feeling a bit differently to how a subscriber might be feeling, but understanding how that subscriber would feel, if that makes any sense. And I think that's probably very much the situation here. I think as a subscriber, I would be feeling like it's sort of like, step forward, step back. It's all a bit sort of treading water back and forth for the time being. And I completely get that. I think if I was on the other side of my tips and I was following my service, I don't think I'd be like super impressed at this point. I think I would be sort of questioning a few things relating to the results over the time frame, etc. But I say there's a cognitive dissonance because I'm really not feeling that at all. I'm feeling really good about my betting right now. And I feel like there were a few reasons why there have been certain mistakes that I've made, but I feel like I'm getting a lot closer to where I want to be with my tipping now. I feel like it's very much a case that I'm sort of finishing ironing out a few more small things, but once they're ironed out, I really think it's going to be a case that once we go on a good run this year, I think I can be consistent with that and roll with it, and I think it will be a successful like year from that point. It's just at the moment, it's just one of those scratchy times where I sort of take a step forward but take a step back. I'm just going to sort of talk a bit about why I think that's happened in this week. Because I don't want to make out that like my betting's been great, but it's more that I think a lot of my betting is like really good at the moment, but I'm still making a few bad bets that undoes some of the work. So the last something I've realized this week, and I think generally this whole process of doing the betting diaries is what it gives me is self-awareness. Like I think I'm a lot more um, kind of uh, looking at ways to improve all the time, looking at my mistakes in a lot more detail. And I think just it goes to my whole approach now. It's not just relating to the tennis, it's relating to just decisions that I'm making with my day and etc. And the US swing, it's the first US tournaments of the year, and it's the first time I've been watching the tennis really late. Obviously, Indian Wells starts at 7 o'clock, and then it goes on till what, like 4 or 5 a.m. And I think on the day that went really well, where we made about 10 points profit, I ended up wanting to see how the bets would be going. Probably stayed up till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I just didn't sleep great. Obviously, like if you late start and your body clock's still getting up at 6:30. I know this all sounds a bit superfluous, but in a sense, I'm very much a morning person. Like and I need to sleep well. I think as an intuitive better, where all your decisions are made based on how sharp your brain is. If you're slightly off your game, you miss just a few key factors, and it's so subtle, tennis betting. It doesn't take much to be thrown off guard. It's just a small lapse in logic or whatever, and that can be a bad bet. And I think that happened on the day after I didn't get a good night's sleep. I watched the tennis too late in a sense, and I made some questionable betting decisions. And the ironic thing was there was some really good bets that day. Green against Rude, that was great value, 4.5 on that. I think that price was probably like 2.4 or so. And there's been some really great value about just generally, which is a little bit frustrating how I haven't capitalized on that completely. But there were some, I think a lot of my bets at the shorter odds on that day were dodgy. I think to beat, no, Thompson to beat to by minus 1.5 games, sort of switched around my logic on that bet. Like I started off thinking about Tabio set one, changed it to Thompson grinding him down and win, and that obviously lost. Same with Ostapenko. First idea was 3 sets, then went for win, but there really wasn't enough margin on that price considering Kvitova and Ostapenko are both error machines. If one clicks, it almost makes it a bit more of a lottery, so you shouldn't really bet a 1.93 on a one like that. But if you're a bit tired and you're not really thinking as clearly as I would be today, for example, you make that kind of mistake where you think, oh, Ostapenko's been better form, and you might just consider that a bit more than the matchup or the context that's relevant. So yeah, I think in the last couple of days just made a few errors on I think Payro was, again, I stayed up a little bit too late the night before as well. So but what it has taught me is something that now that I've noted is that I shouldn't watch tennis an hour before bed. I need to basically unwind, clock out. Also just me, I don't know, this is probably getting into a bit too much detail, but I notice I sleep better, I'm more relaxed if I've had a proper like wind down, whereas if I'm last thing I do is watching tennis, I'm too stimulated, don't sleep, the quality of the sleep isn't as good as well as the hours you've obviously lost. And it definitely has made an impact on those last couple of days. So yeah, make a new rule, obviously an hour before like I clock out from the tennis, and yeah, and but generally, yeah, I think if it wasn't for the fact that I made a few sloppy bets due to lack of mental sharpness on those particular days, I think it would have been a really strong profit from this event. So and a lot of my personal, obviously I don't send everything on the bot, it would be a bit of a like it's high volume enough already, so I've got to filter a bit, but it's one of those weeks where a lot of what I've not sent, the ones that I filtered out have won. So like I'm personally feeling on a good track. It's just a little bit frustrating that the year's not taken off in that sense, because I am feeling very optimistic. But yeah, like it's just one of those things. Like there's not too much damage being done at the moment. It's all just a bit like back and forth. As I said, I think once I go on a good run and manage to find a bit of consistency, I really am confident of a good year here. Something I do really think has been a weakness has been live bets though, and again I think obviously the last couple of days it was a bit exaggerated, the fact that I was tired and then making live bets that wasn't a good combo. I think the Kekmanovic one has made me want to tighten up my criteria, because even though I'm betting at 3.1, the price was from a set down, which means you need an implied probability of like 60% to on Kekmanovic winning each of the next 2 sets to win the match, and that does reduce the margin. It's basically a bet on Kekmanovic 2-0 at 3.0, and when I look at it like that now, I can see that probably wasn't the right bet considering how that match was going. So what I want to do with the live bets is tighten up my criteria so that any bet that I have, I want to be doing it so that a player requires a strike rate of less than 50% to win the bet. So for example, if I'm betting an underdog at 2.2 and I get a strike rate of 50, then I'm going to make profit, obviously, of course. But I haven't been doing that so far. But it also means if I'm betting, because I'm just intuitively now starting to understand that I've been making good profit over the last year on live bets where I might be betting from a setup at 1.7, but it's a bet on 1.7 to not lose the next two sets, if that makes sense. And I think it's more important with live bets, which obviously are a bit more impulsive, to add in that extra uncertainty into the bets, and to make sure that you're sort of taking the right odds ranges, because I think that's something that I have fallen a bit short on this season today. So yeah, and also just cleaning up round one and outright bets. The outright bets just have been a bit loose this year. I think it's because I've been wanting to get back into sending outright. So it's been a little bit of a process of, because they have been historically, when I was getting into the outrights in 2017, 2018, I had real success. But I do need to make sure that that criteria is really tight, and I think I'm best when I've seen everyone play and then make a decision on the outright. So yeah, like the year's sort of break even at the moment. But when you consider the fact that I'm working really hard on targeting my weaknesses, and I think I think the key is that I really do have a strong sense of self-awareness about where my weaknesses lie. And then just sort of things like obviously making sure I'm, getting sleep in and stuff like that, which isn't usually a problem. It's because it's the US swing, the tennis is on later. In the European swing, I'm not having to worry about that in a sense. Yeah, so it's I feel like it's just fine margins, but I'm on the right track, and really am hopeful because the next few months I do love the period from May to June. Like April's probably not the easiest betting month, just quite minor tournaments, but I really want to be kind of peaking for May, French Open, Madrid, Rome, love all those events, and then the grass season, got a lot of value on the grass to enjoy usually. So it's obviously it's frustrating at times. I can't lie, that day where, not this morning, I felt okay with yesterday, because apart from the payroll and the that bet, I think I was fairly content even with the results. But the day before I was a bit frustrated at some of them, and as a subscriber I realise it's frustrating also when it is going the way like it is when you're spending a lot of time placing bets. So yeah, again, as always, just want to say, just really appreciate the patience and the kind messages that I get. I've had a few this week from some subscribers saying they're a big fan of the channel and stuff. I just want to say also, I wanted to do this in the last episode, but just a shout out to a couple of followers, John Joe, because we always talk about tennis, and I think when I have bad bets or I've sent my tips already, and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure about those bets. They look a bit rough." It's so often right, and like there's not many people that understand certain context on courts and different factors relating to tennis that I usually haven't considered myself. And there are situations with him where he'll give me some advice where I'm thinking, I've missed that or whatever. So yeah, just appreciate all those chats and just appreciate the friendship generally. And JP KD, a French subscriber, we always often talk most days about tennis, and he's again like someone who almost started thinking more like me in that sense. The more we talk about tennis, the more he might propose the same ideas that I propose, but he's telling me before I've even like discussed my ideas with him. So I always find that nice when it sort of feels like your logic is sort of it makes sense that you feel like you're doing okay if other people are finding the same logic. And so, and he's betting at slightly shorter odds at 1.7, 1.8, and has had a really good year, often on a lot of the same ideas, which is it's just kind of a reflection of the fact that maybe on my bets, if we'd gone for slightly safer options on a lot of the matches this week, it would have been a decent one. It's just that the higher odds sometimes you get a bit more variance. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover. I think with the betting portfolio as a whole, just it's this slight drawdown the last couple of months, much the same as my own tennis. It's nothing alarming from any tipster. It's just a case that you have to be patient. As long as it's not too much of a downswing during these occasions, it's just best to wait out the variance in the sort of the month to month basis, and then you just hope for those big bursts, those big upswings to happen. And I'm sure they will happen at some point in the future months to come. So yeah, cheers guys, and hope you're all doing well.